All right, welcome to this candidate Q&A for House District 80. My name is Chris Hass. I am a SE for Ed area rep in the Midlands area. And what we are working to do is make sure that people voting within each district have an opportunity to feel informed when they come to the polls in June for primaries, especially those people who have education near the top of their list in terms of their concerns when they think about who they want to vote for. So in this district, we have the incumbent, Jimmy Bales. We have challenger on the Democrat side, Jermaine Johnson, who is here with us today. And then on the Republican ticket, we have Vincent Wilson. And before we begin, I would like to point out that I did personally extend invitations to every candidate who's running. And sometimes people respond, sometimes people they don't. Sometimes people can't come and participate for a variety of reasons. But in this case, Jimmy Bales and Vincent Wilson are both not here because I didn't get a chance to hear back from them. So I want to thank Jermaine Johnson for being here and talking to constituents about his beliefs and his concerns and his desires for public education in the state of South Carolina, and especially in District 80. So I'm just going to start out by giving you an opportunity to talk a little bit about yourself and who you are and why you're running for office.
Oh, well, thank you so much for having me on here today. My name is Jermaine Johnson, and I am a candidate for House Representative District 80. I decided that, I needed to run after, it's been 20 plus years that we've had the same leadership, and, we knew that it was time for new leadership in my district, in my area, some leadership that would better represent, what we have in our area. A lot of youth and individuals who are looking for, a positive example that they can look to kind of gauge, what they can do in their lives. So that was me. I've been involved with politics for a little while, but I never asked for any type of recognition. I've been recently I was the South Carolina campaign chair for the presidential candidate Andrew Yang. I am the former third vice chair of the Richland County Democratic Party. I'm part of the Democratic Black Caucus, and I'm part of a host of other groups that are here in South Carolina. I'm currently the Richland County Recreation Commissioner for District 4 down in my area. So, I've been around for a little while. I've been doing some work in my community, a lot of volunteering, a lot of mentoring work in my community. I've just never asked for any recognition because I always believe that a leader will do it selflessly and will not need any type of pat on the back or anything like that. He will just do what needs to be done. So I'm here. I'm married. I've got 3 beautiful children. I'm an adjunct professor at Webster University. I have my doctorate in business administration, organization leadership. So I know firsthand about education. I love education. But growing up, I did not like, and that's something I would like to get into, a little later on. Some of my questions is about how I kind of progressed from not liking school and education to being an educator. So, I'm excited about that. But thank you again for having me.
Absolutely. So let's go ahead and get started. My first question is, what is your opinion of the state of public education in South Carolina today?
I think we have a lot of untapped potential. And the reason why I say we have a lot of untapped potential in South Carolina is because we're not being fully funded. So we don't know what education in South Carolina could actually be like if we're not going to fully fund it and truly care about what we have in South Carolina. The fact that, we have different school districts being funded different amounts. We have, different school districts that are paying more for per pupil than other, school districts. We've got a serious issue. So, but we don't know what we could be until we give it our all. We always say, we talk about students not giving up until they've, exhausted all their options or tried 100%, give it 100%. But we as a state have not given it 100% to see what our education system could look like if we really tried. We're not trying. So that for that reason, I think we have a lot of untapped potential for education in South Carolina. So right now, where we're sitting at, it's almost like we don't care. We're so lackadaisical. We're just like, let's give you the bare minimum. When we're not paying teachers the national average of $39,000, when we're not doing that, we can't even at least pay them that. I mean, that just lets you know that we're not really in this. We're not really in this for a full, complete investment in our children because we're not really willing to give them our all. So I think we have untapped potential. I'd love to see where education could be at if we really fully invested.
So a lot of times when educators or the education committee speaks or community speaks with legislators, they would say, we would love to fund education if only we could. If you can find the money, then we will gladly do it. So how would you expect to address the funding of public education in South Carolina? What might be some solutions we could think about?
Well, you saw we had a surplus this last year of over $1 billion. Every year we have a recurring surplus, about $860 million. We can fund it. We can fund it. We make excuses on not being able to fund this. I mean, there's so many various ways. Putting land value taxes, things like that. Where we could have made a whole lot of money if we had a certain land value tax in Charleston, because you see what's going on in Charleston right now. There's a lot of gentrification going on in Charleston right now. So with that gentrification that's going on, we could have at least made some money off the developers to pay for to pay the teachers. At least make something off of that if they're going to steal people's land. We could have done something that could have, we could have gained a lot of additional revenue just from doing things like that. So there's a myriad of ways and methods that we can do to make sure that we're having this money. But we've got money. Like I said, we had over $1 billion of surplus, this past year. So we have the money. People at the State House just want to say you don't.
Yeah. So I generally wouldn't comment back, but I will point out, so we had $1.8 billion, 800 million of which was recurring. And when we were faced with $500 in the deficit of per child funding, they were going to improve it, I think, $11 per child. So yeah, you're absolutely right. I would agree with that. So outside of funding, what would be your opinion on what would some other steps we could take to improve public education in South Carolina?
So what we can do is we can get rid of a lot of these standardized testing. A lot of these tests are culturally biased in the first place. And that's one thing that I learned, working with Andrew Yang, was that the whole development of the SAT, was who we're going to send to the front lines, who we're sending to war. A lot of these things are already culturally biased, so they're already swayed. A lot of these things also, when they were developed, they're developed in such a way where it was by white men for the message of, related to more white men about white men issues and white men things. So, it's already time for us to redevelop some of these things now in the first place. So a lot of these standardized testing, they need to go. We need to give more say so for the teachers. The teachers have to be able to talk about how they want to run their classrooms. We're putting them to such a rigorous type of methodology that we have in these schools that they have no time to teach. They're just stuck on this strict type of regiment where they don't get to express how they really want to get the lessons across. So we can give teachers a little bit more control over what's going on in their classroom and get rid of some of these standardized testing.
So maybe you just spoke to that, but what would accountability look like in our state if it weren't for the regimented standardized testing that we already have in place?
Repeat that question again.
I said maybe you spoke to this just a little bit, but if not for the regimented standardized testing that's already in place and the accountability measures that are already established, what might that look like in the state of South Carolina if we were going to divest ourselves from those measures?
Well, what I'm thinking now is having, not having that SAR thing that we're trying to have now. I think you want to allow the school districts a little bit more leeway into saying what they, what's best for their schools, what's best for their communities. We have a lot of school districts that are predominantly Black, and we've got school districts that are predominantly white. We've got different things. So there's different ways that have to be not one size fits all. So we have to make sure that we are allowing all the school districts to have a say so in what and how they want to operate. But we can't not fund one school district because they don't want to do it this way or they want to do it that way. We need to make sure that each school district is equitably funded.
So you've spoken to funding education and to salaries a little bit. So one of the big problems facing the state of South Carolina is retaining and recruiting teachers. Each year we lose 6,000 to 7,000 teachers, but we're only graduating a little less than 2,000 a year from our state universities. What are some steps do you think we could take that would help recruit more teachers, but also retain the best among our ranks?
Well, the first thing you do is, like I had said in the first question, was to let's at least pay teachers the national average starting out, of 39,000 something. So let's at least give them the national average. Right now we just raised them up to about 35. I mean, come on, we at least give them the national average. I think that would help out as well. We also know that there's statistics surrounding minority male teachers and the success of children. So I think we need to do more, have more programs. There's the Call Me Mr. program, but we still need more programs to give out there to attract more minority males, because we know how that affects the success of children. I think we need to do more loan forgiveness. Again, there's other programs out there, but we need to do more of that. We need to, I would say, every year that you stay in the teacher profession, you get more money forgiven for your student loans. I think that you should qualify for a lot more certain things if you're going to stay in the teacher profession, because you're right. Every year we're losing, these good teachers. We also need to help the teachers to feel more supported. They should have more than a $500 deductible. I mean, it's got to be more. It's got to be more than that, because they're spending all this money on school supplies. They're spending all this money just working additional hours. Like, they're working on weekends. They're working on their days off. There's certain things that we can do. Like I have been reading up on Wendy Brawley's bills and looking at the educational stuff about supporting teachers getting that 30 minutes of uninterrupted time, so they can do the things that they need to do. There's certain things we can definitely support teachers more. And like I said, it starts by at least moving their pay up to the national average.
So thank you. Is there anything else you would like to share with us about education or the election in general?
Yeah, well, myself being an educator, now that I'm a college professor, I never thought that I would be a college professor. Me growing up where I'm from, I actually went to 7 different high schools. I went to a couple different elementary schools. I went to one middle school, and I went to 7 different high schools. Starting out, I had a 0.8 GPA. And I ended up being able to get to the College of Charleston on a basketball scholarship. I ended up getting my master's degree, and I got my doctorate. So, I went from all of that, what I was going through, being a homeless student, to being Dr. Johnson. So I tell a lot of people that your past does not define your future, but my success is directly correlated with a lot of mentors and teachers that I had growing up. So I know, what a positive teacher, what a good mentor in these schools can do for some of the young kids that are going through the things that they're going through. A lot of the kids that we have in our school, the only meal they get is that day during the school. I had a teacher that was really, really difficult on me. But once she found out that I was a homeless student, that I was living in a motel and I was going through some things, she actually became, one of the best teachers that I had. She came to school the next day with a lot of soap and different things that could help me out through my struggle. So I know what a good teacher can do for somebody if they are supported. We need to support these teachers, because sometimes, like my teachers, sometimes these teachers, they're not just doing things for themselves. They're doing things for their students, like myself, who was a homeless student. And I had teachers that was bringing stuff and invested in me. So, let's invest in these students. Let's invest in these teachers, because as cliche as it sounds, they are our future.
All right. Well, Dr. Johnson, thank you so much for spending time with us and speaking to your potential constituents.
Thank you so much.